Today, we're going to talk about this whole idea of sports, high school sports, college sports, in the age of COVID. What's happening? We've spent the last week or two with all of you talking about getting ready for school. And we know that that's been sort of a day to day proposition as the school districts have tried to figure out how to open the schools safely. Along with that, but not much attention paid to it, has been the whole idea of the fall sports schedule in high schools. So, to unpack that as best we can, given the circumstances, I've invited the preeminent expert, I would say, not only in prep sports, but college sports throughout the region. Former sports writer for the Pensacola News Journal, now writing for the Blue Wahoos, Bill Villona. Bill is it probably doesn't like to talk much about himself. So I'm going to, for those of you who don't know Bill, which is probably two or three of you in our audience, Bill has covered every kind of sports there is over here in the Western Florida Panhandle. He is a member of the University of West Florida Sports Hall of Fame, as well as the Pensacola Sports Hall of Fame. Bill, that's pretty heady company.
Well, John, thanks so much for having me. This is an honor to be part of this with you. And I think anytime you get into Hall of Fames, that means that you've gotten old. So I was blessed to have a lengthy career in the newspaper business. And 18 months ago, I transitioned into full time with the Pensacola Blue Wahoos, obviously an organization and a team that I covered when they founded the franchise in 2012. And so now to be part of the Blue Wahoos and see the inner workings of the franchise and the company has been a blessing. And obviously, Quint Studer, the team owner, has done more for Pensacola than any other person that I can think of in my history here. So to be part of his organization has been a blessing. But I did have a lot of warm memories, obviously, mostly warm memories of my 30 some years here working for the Pensacola News Journal.
Hello, friends. You're live on Studio 8. So, Bill, this past week, let's sort of set the table once again here. Superintendent Thomas here in Escambia, the superintendent in Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, they've pretty much decided that they're going to wait until August the 24th, I believe it is, to begin school. A lot of that has to do with reallocating the teachers to the remote learning and the classroom learning, because a lot of the parents, in fact, a substantial number of parents have selected the remote rather than the traditional learning. And so the governing body of high school sports in the state of Florida, and it's a mouthful, so I'm just going to say the Florida Athletic Association, they've been meeting twice this past week to try to figure out how they're going to regulate and allow high school sports in Florida to start in a safe manner. Tell us what your read on what's going on this past week with the Florida High School Athletic Association.
Well, John, unfortunately, a lot happened, and it wasn't really a good look, frankly, for the Florida High School Athletic Association, the FHSAA. On Monday, they voted to basically continue status quo, which was start July 27th, which would have been Monday. Well, the schools in Southern Florida, particularly Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, and overall across on the other side, Naples, Fort Myers, they rightfully went up in arms about it because they're not ready to even start school, much less think about bringing sports teams together. So in a couple days of sort of rage and the other parts of the state agreeing with those schools, including our area, the FHSAA did the remarkable thing, John, of revoting. And in revoting Thursday night, they passed a different resolution, this one to start on August the 24th. Now, here in Escambia County, in Pensacola, and in Santa Rosa County, the athletic directors and the schools had already said they weren't going to start till the 17th. So basically now it's going to be a week later, but our schools were much in line with the schools in Southern Florida who thought that the idea of bringing kids together on Monday, the 27th of July, was ludicrous. And so they now have agreed statewide that nothing is going to start practice-wise in the 6 fall sports until August the 24th. Now, what does that mean for football? Football, it will not start as of this moment, as of the time we're speaking right now. Football is not going to start till mid-September. But I would want everyone to understand this is an incredibly fluid situation. There is a very real possibility that Florida as a state might go the same way as California. The California Interscholastic Federation, as their association is termed, canceled all sports until January, all fall sports. They're not going to play football until January. Now, will Florida do the same thing? There's a possibility of that. But as of this moment, the plan is to try to start all of the fall sports in mid-September.
Bill, for those of our audience who are not familiar with the way that high school sports are set up here in this state, and the way the schedules are set up and the conferences and the way the schools are grouped within the conferences, give us a high school football conference dummies 101 for all of us, and explain to us a little bit about how all that works.
Okay, John, Florida's obviously very unique because of its size and its geographics. But basically, in Florida, you have over 500 schools playing football, and they are part of a 700-member Florida High School Athletic Association, FHSAA. Okay, so you've got over 500 schools stretching from Key West to Pensacola. On the FHSAA board are 16 members, none of whom are unfortunately members of or part of Northwest Florida. But those are the people, that 16-member board votes procedure, votes new rules, and voted obviously this bizarre week of no, we're going to play as normal, and then no, hold on, we're going to change. So anyway, in Florida football, there are 8 classifications. The one that starts in our area is 7A. That includes Niceville, Tate, Crestview, and I'm leaving out one other. Oh boy. Anyway, those 3 right off the top of my head are from our area. Navarre, I'm sorry. So Navarre, Niceville, Crestview, and Tate are in 7A. Everybody else is 6A, 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A. Okay, so that's how that works in our region in Northwest Florida. So everybody operates under the same guideline of when to start, how many games you're going to play, when are you going to have the playoffs, and all of that. So it's uniform that way. But there are 8 different classifications in Florida depending on school size.
So, Bill, this involves playoffs and championships. How far did we have to travel, for example, to participate? I mean, the schools in Escambia, some are large, some are smaller. Do they have to go to Central Florida to play in these playoffs?
Yes, John. The state championships the past year were held in Daytona Beach, which was let's see, about 6-hour drive for our schools. They previously were held in Orlando, which was an hour further, which was 7-hour drive for our schools. That is part of the problem in Florida, where you have 650 miles separating Miami from Pensacola, and the bulk of a large portion of the schools in the state are in Southern Florida, and by Southern Florida I mean draw a line in Orlando and go south, and that's basically where most of the schools are. So there is this dilemma on where to hold state championships. Now the playoffs are depending on the bracketing in each sport. That then you might have to travel as far as Orlando to go to a region championship. That's about as far for our schools that you would have to go at the region level. But our schools do have to travel. Of course, so do their schools. When they come up here, you're talking about St. Augustine, for example, or Ocala coming all the way up here to play. So that's how they have to do it in Florida, because the state obviously is unique in how it is, how we're laid out, how the geography of our state. So it's a dilemma in terms of travel every year. And now, of course, when you add what we're going through, this adds to the problems they're facing.
So, Bill, in our part of the world here, I've learned over the years that things are important to our way of life. The recreation, at least over here in the Panhandle, the water, recreation, our religion, our neighborhoods, and our high school sports. So, as the COVID precautions restrict us and limit us in many ways, this is going to dive deep within our culture. The ability to attend these high school athletic events, while it may be in the best interest of our health, is going to deprive us once again of that social interaction, that sense of being. Where do you think this will go if it lasts for some time?
Well, John, let's hope that it only goes as far as the end of this year. I mean, there is enormous financial burden on these schools, and I could tell everyone listening or watching, from the professional level to the high school level, there's one commonality, and that's money. You're talking about billions of dollars at the professional and college level, but you're talking about a significant amount of money at the high school level if sports are not played. And in the fall, football and volleyball are your two main drivers of ticket sales. You know, girls volleyball draws very well, and football obviously is the behemoth that everybody looks forward to on Friday night. You take that away, John, and you're limiting now what schools have to use all across the board for the entire school year. How will it be this year? We don't know. They haven't said, and nobody has given a definitive answer on whether you're even going to have fans at a high school game. If, let's say, you started mid-September, are people going to be able to go? That hasn't been determined yet. And if people can't go, now if you're not going to have fans in the stands, now you're taking away your revenue. And that's going to be a very difficult thing to do. Right. High school sports don't have television contracts like collegiate sports and professional sports, where it's cushioning some of the financial losses. Now, it's not taking it away. I mean, everybody has said, well, gee, the colleges can depend on TV. Oh, no, they depend on fans in the stands, too. So does the NFL or Major League Baseball. So this is gigantic losses, even the way they're trying to do it. But until we determine whether our family's going to be able to go to high school games and sit in the bleachers, we don't know. That's the problem we're in right now.
Bill, one of the criticisms of the Florida High School Athletic Association levied during their meetings this week came from a number of the high school athletic directors in South Florida, and it centered on that holding back the schedule would deprive a number of student athletes from competing for college football scholarships, and that their school districts were many cases pockets of poverty where a number of these student athletes can lift themselves up and obtain college scholarships. Is that a real problem if the season is delayed? And why would it be such a problem?
Well, it is a real problem because obviously it would eliminate this year and recruiting of these athletes this year. Colleges typically are going to make their final decisions on who to offer scholarships based on what they have seen this season, and this season being a season that starts on time. You take that away, and then the only thing colleges can go toward is the past year, which would have been 2019, and whatever workouts that
Yeah.
could be arranged to kind of showcase kids. Because John, the thing is, the calendar is going to continue to move. In other words, there's going to be a new year and there's going to be a new signing day in February of 2021, and all of the sports for 2021 are going to start, and you've got another class behind us, the junior class. They're going to become seniors in 2021. So the calendar is going to keep going forward. This group, it's going to be a real problem if they can't play. And I know one of the things that the Miami-Dade County schools had said, look, we can't start July 27th. If the FHSAA is going to say we have to start, then guess what? We may leave the FHSAA. And Broward County, which is Fort Lauderdale, said, you know what? We may have to leave the organization too. Well, then that is when the stop sign went up. And it was like, oh, hold on, wait a minute. We can't have a bulk of our state not part of the association that we're trying to govern. So that is really what triggered some of this, thankfully, some of this issue of, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. Let's push this back and see where we are. And that's what's happened. And, but John, again, nobody's ever gone through this in history of our country, and everybody is trying to navigate something that there's been no precedent for.
If you just joined us, we're talking with Bill Villona, a former sports writer and editor, I suppose, of down at the Pensacola News Journal. And Bill reminded me earlier that he spent 37 years starting with a Royal typewriter, paper, and carbon paper. And he said that, I think I'm pulling this from some remarks he gave over here to the Florida Hall of Fame induction recently. Made me laugh. Bill said that when I found out about word processors, I thought this was the best thing that had ever happened. And now all of a sudden, Bill is here in front of a virtual interview going on here with no typewriters. But Bill, the world has changed on us here. So we're glad to have you with us. We appreciate your time and especially your deep insights. Are you talking to any of the area athletic directors or football coaches recently about how I guess they're still doing conditioning activities that's permitted? What are you hearing?
Well, John, typically in June, is when athletes in all fall sports really start to ramp up their preparation. Whether you're a volleyball player, whether you're in cross country, swimming, you're starting to ramp up to get ready for the season that normally would have started in August. Normally, we would have been thinking about high school football exactly 1 month from today. That would have been really the first games. So they would have been full bore in preparation, but with COVID-19, you've got all of the uncertainty of how can you practice, who can you be around. The schools, John, also have the dilemma of how do you test everybody. This has been a problem at the professional level, and they have all the money in the world to do it. Imagine what this is going to be for the high schools to try to test kids beyond just taking a temperature. I'm talking about an actual virus test, and how do you keep everybody safe? And that's where we are. And so the practices can continue a lot easier in informal settings, but once you start bringing together a whole team, and again, whether that's a volleyball team or a football team, you're talking about a lot of kids together, very close to each other, and how are you gonna keep everybody safe? That's where we are. I mean, just today, John, just as we speak, there's been another 12,000 cases in the state of Florida. Florida, as a state, has the second highest number of COVID cases behind California in the nation. So we're in really difficult times right now, unless we can get a handle on this.
So here in Escambia in the Western Panhandle, the issue is high school sports. What's going to happen in the age of COVID here? But I think equally as important to our audience, Bill, is college sports. I was just reading here again this morning the dilemma that the Southeastern Conference athletic directors were facing. I mean, let's face it, this is big business, and they've got big bills to pay and big
Right.
obligations. And yeah, so what do you see in your crystal ball when it comes to college sports, particularly, let's see, the SEC for us, maybe the Atlantic Coast Conference over here at Florida State, University of West Florida? What's the current situation with those colleges?
Well, John, college football is a let me just repeat that, $4 billion industry a year. Even if the conferences like the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, the Pac 12, let's just say they can play 10 games and no fans. That's still a loss. They're estimating, these athletic directors, of $150 million. That's what you're faced with here, because you're not having as many games, you're not bringing as many people, all of that. Okay, so as of right now, as of this moment, that there is still a hope that they can play some kind of a college season of, say, 10 games or 8 games, somewhere in that vicinity. But again, can this happen? How does it happen? How do you keep the players safe? Football is a behemoth in terms of trying to keep 75 players or 50 players safe in an environment that's a sport that involves, obviously, contact. At UWF, I think a lot of people will say, well, what's going to happen to UWF? Right now, what's going to happen is that their conference has put a hold on the season until mid-September. But again, they're going to meet next week. The presidents of the Gulf South Conference, as well as presidents in Division II, they're going to meet again. Some Division II conferences, John, have already called off the whole season, just as the Ivy League in Division I and a couple other conferences. I think the Patriot League, which is the low-level Division I, they've called off the entire season. So there is a very real possibility, I have to say, that we may not have any college football play. I think I got a level. I think people have braced for the fact, and frankly, we still don't even know if there's going to be an NFL season. But right now, college is a even bigger concern, because you're talking about amateur athletes. It's a whole different world. They're not being paid to play. And how are you going to keep everybody tested? How are you going to keep everybody safe? Are you going to allow fans in the stands? All of this stuff hasn't been worked out. But why is there such pressure is what we've talked about, the enormous financial cost of this. If you take away the season, and even if you try to start it in January, you're still losing so much money that it's unfathomable, really, when you think about what this could do for the future. And but there's been no precedent for this, so who knows? I mean, that's the problem. And I think it's less of a certainty that Division II football, which would be UWF, is even played. I think there's a holding out hope that somehow the SEC, somehow the ACC, somehow the Big Ten and the Pac-10 and the Big 12, those 5 major conferences, somehow they work out something to offset this enormous financial loss that they're going to take if they don't play. But you have to you have to look at the tea leaves and see what's going on with our climate right now. And if the players don't feel safe, then you can't play.
Right. And I think the college players and the Power Fives have been getting more and more antsy about the value of their college scholarships as opposed to the revenue the schools are collecting from the games. And I just wonder, Bill, if this whole business of how safe would a student athlete be on a D1 scholarship, does it outweigh the value of that scholarship? And I just, as you say, I just see us going into uncharted waters. Now, I don't mean to make light of the situation, but keeping 75 roster players healthy, uninjured, it seemed to be a great time to be a fourth string player or be down deep in the depth chart. Your number may be called sooner than you expected. So, Bill, we mentioned to the audience that you now work for the Blue Wahoos. We didn't have Blue Wahoos baseball this summer. There's been a lot of press reporting around about Major League Baseball's relationship with their minor league clubs this summer, the players being paid, the number of players actually being on contract to the big clubs. What's the current state of minor league baseball from where you sit?
Well, John, like from the Blue Wahoo's perspective, to give fans a raw number, and I don't mind sharing this because our owner, Quinn Studer, has shared this, we're going to lose over $3 million by not playing. $3 million this year gone. That's going to be the net loss, and we're trying to that's probably on the plus, the hopeful side of things. But for minor league baseball, they last year in 2019 there were 162 teams in minor league baseball across various levels. There's going to be an elimination of at least 40 of them. We are in great shape as an organization, and the Blue Wahoos, we are in AA, the second highest minor league level. We are well thought of in the industry, but there's going to be massive changes. Major League Baseball is going to take over minor league baseball. And what that means is that now there's going to be more of a pressure to in order to keep your affiliation with a team, you're going to have to make sure your facilities are good. You're going to have to make sure a lot of things are in place because Major League Baseball is going to want the best for their players. We're going to see a lot of changes. There's going to be minor league teams, John, that simply go out of business because of this loss. If it weren't for Quinn Studer, his company, his generosity, and what all he has done, we would be in serious financial trouble. There are many minor league teams, John, that are not going to survive this year because they were already operating on a tightrope, dependent upon having 70 home baseball games. You take away all of that revenue, they can't recover it. And we've done a lot of great things with our Airbnb, which has been an enormous success.
Yeah, right.
Other things. You know, we have done things to try to ease the pain, but all this is doing is as Quinn has joked, our goal is not make money. Our goal is to lose less money. We're losing money, but how do we lose less money? But he's been encouraged because, you know, we're also cognizant of the fact that by having these events at the stadium, like movie night, fireworks night, dinner nights, graduations, we're doing good things for the community. The Airbnb has brought us national and worldwide attention. We're the only sports venue in America operating a daily Airbnb. So that's been an incredible boost for us and our brand. But yeah, there's going to be major changes. Now, we don't even know 100% whether we're going to be affiliated with the Minnesota Twins next year. We want to be, and I think they want to be, but again, they may go in geographics and say, hey, there's two Major League Baseball teams in Florida. They need to align themselves geographically with their minor leagues to be part of a, you know, closer together. That might happen. We don't know. But we do know this: we're going to be one of the teams that survive this. we're going to be one of the teams that operate in 2021. We're going to get through this, but there's going to be really a lot of pain in a lot of cities, John, that are going to lose their team. They're going to lose their affiliation simply because financially they couldn't make it or their facility isn't up to par. Major League Baseball is going to have to make a lot of hard decisions. They've already made a lot of hard decisions and just trying to play a 60-game schedule. The shortest major league schedule in the history of the sport is being played right now. So there's going to be a lot of changes. I think down the road, once we can get a vaccine, once we can get a medical cure, which I think are going to both happen, I do think you're going to see a brighter future. But we're a couple of years away from maybe getting back to where we were at the end of 2019, John.
We're talking with eminent sports writer Bill Villona, a member of the Pensacola Sports and the University of West Florida Hall of Fame. We've asked Bill to come in today to share with you his thoughts on high school and college and even minor league baseball. What's going to happen, as best we can tell, in the age of COVID here as we all take precautions. Bill, we're going to wrap it up here today, but there's something I heard yesterday. We were live streaming a homeschooling seminar down at Studer Community Institute. And some of the, as I mentioned a little earlier, if you're just joining us, Escambia School District, Okaloosa, Santa Rosa, Walton, Bay County, they're all experiencing the same thing in terms of enrollment for the coming year. A majority of parents are opting for the remote or virtual learning curriculum rather than going into the schools of what they call the traditional course. So one of the questions came up yesterday was, my child wants to play high school sports. How do we do that if we're homeschooling them? And then somebody said, well, Tim Tebow, no small potatoes when it comes to sports success, was a homeschooler over in St. Johns County. What do you know in your history here of homeschoolers playing high school sports in the Panhandle? Are there many Tim Tebows out there that we just don't know about? I don't want to put you on the spot by saying what the policy is, Bill, but what in your history do you know about that?
Well, John, first of all, it is allowed, and I think it it has to be allowed that a student can be homeschooled and yet still participate in interscholastic sports. So I wouldn't say it's prevalent in our area, but there are athletes that have done it. Tim Tebow obviously is the most famous one who has done it, but it is done, and it can be done. You have flexibility, obviously, in where you play if you're homeschooled. I don't think personally it's the ideal way to get education, but I understand parental concerns, and that again, and right now this is going to be further ramped up with the COVID situation and people rightfully being scared about allowing their children into a classroom setting, especially when nobody can get tested all the time. So yes, you can do it. And, simply what happens is at the end of your homeschooling day, whether that's at 3 o'clock or whenever the regular school classes are complete, then you simply you have to provide your own transportation. You have to have somebody take you to the school, but you would then join your student athletes, your fellow teammates, and then practice or play in a game just as you would if you went to school. So it can be done, and I think this year it's going to be done a lot if they have sports. But the thing that I want to emphasize before we go, this is an incredibly fluid situation, John. We're talking at 12 noon on a Saturday. By Monday, something could change again, and we could be talking about a whole different set of circumstances next week if we went back on. mean, this is going to change. There's going to be a lot of changes made simply because no one has ever gone through anything like this, and we can't predict what might happen because, as everybody says, the virus is the virus, and it doesn't care what time of the year it is. Remember, everybody thought, hey, warm weather, like less likelihood of a virus being transmitted. That hasn't happened with this. This hasn't been like the flu, and so we don't know what's going to happen. But I tell you this: unless they can slow this down, unless they can get the number of cases and the number of hospitalizations down, and things can start changing in a different direction. I would say to you that I don't think we're going to have sports at the high school level and maybe even the collegiate level unless they can get a better handle on this, because it's right now it's scary what's going on.
Well, Bill, on that note, I can say we could look forward to Major League Baseball, even with
Right.
their fake crowd noise and their cutouts. I noticed that one of the teams is you can purchase a full-size cardboard cutout of your likeness if you own a season ticket, and they will place it in the seats
Yes.
there with the idea that it'll be a virtual audience in Major League Baseball. You talk about times are a changing, the world we live in. Well, Bill, thank you. Bill Villona has been with us. We've been talking for some time now. I hope this has been informative to many of you. I know we've all been stressing a little bit on the opening of schools and how that's going to work. But in my neighborhood, the parents are also stressing on high school football and how that's going to work, because it's such a big part of our culture and our life here in the Panhandle. So for all of you, on behalf of all of our audience today, Bill, thank you for joining with us, and I hope you come back and see us again soon.
John, I would love to. And I also want to just stress to everybody, please stay safe. Let's try to get through this, and we got to get through it. So everybody, please do whatever you can to stay safe. And John, thank you for having me.
We've been with Bill Villona, sports writer here, giving us a quick look at sort of a quick look at the future of high school sports. To all of our audience across the Western Panhandle, we say thank you for joining with us. We echo Bill's sentiments. Stay safe, take care of your family, enjoy the weekend in a smart way, and join us again next time we're live on Studio 850.